Ascension news, the return of the goddess. Before we can really talk about the return of the goddess, we must speak about the collective fall from grace experienced by humanity a long time ago. This fall from grace was from a collective unity consciousness to one of separation consciousness and enemy patterning. An enemy patterning is where we see ourselves as separate and alone in a hostile universe. There is always the others, the individual groups we must guard or fight against. We have entered a dog-eat-dog universe, survival of the fittest and so on. As this fall from grace occurred, humanity experienced a swing, firstly between a time when matriarchal cultures reigned supreme, followed by a time when patriarchy reigned supreme. And we are perhaps more familiar with the latter, since we've really been experiencing it and immersed within it for the past several thousand years. Within these present-day societies on the planet, all forms of power are mostly held within masculine structures. We have presidents, prime ministers, popes, generals, CEOs, and so on. These structures are very pyramidical in nature. Power is held at the top. Those below the top rung seek to climb the power ladder. Each layer serves the layer above. Extreme wealth and power are held at the top in the hands of a very few. Traditionally, those in power have been men, although in recent times women, those with very strong masculine energies, have risen to power. In England we have the example of Margaret Thatcher, who became Prime Minister and when in power was a very formidable opponent within parliamentary debates. Here power is primarily held within rigid structures. They can be political, financial, corporate, military, religious and so on. In terms of consciousness, the left brain, with its analytical and linear thinking, became held supreme over the more feminine right brain, with its more creative, imaginative and intuitive abilities. In patriarchy, the mind is always seen as superior to the heart, and men are always seen as superior to women. Patriarchy objectifies people, women as modes of reproduction and then later as sex objects, men as workers and warriors and later as success objects. So let's take a brief look at patriarchy before recorded history. As I understand it, patriarchy first became a real major problem in the civilization of Atlantis. And although this civilization had a very long golden age, it was within the last 500 years that the great darkness entered therein and created a great fall, not only in technology and culture but in consciousness also. This period marked the beginning of humanity dwelling within the lower rungs of the 3D dimension. Lower in terms of black magic, which is essentially the misuse of energy and consciousness, fear, control, separation, war, enslavement, injustice, and the ability to destroy the planet through various dark technologies many times over. In recorded history, the first signs of patriarchy arose in Neolithic cultures from about 10,200 BC to between 4,500 to 2000 BC. During this time, goddesses that had been important during the Paleolithic and early Neolithic eras were banished or demoted, and in their place, pantheons of gods arose with male father figures. In Greece, there was Zeus. In Rome, there was Jupiter. In Scandinavian Norse cultures, there was Odin. In these cultures and others, there was a certain intermingling of gods and goddesses, but the supreme power now rested in a god the father figure. The story that really epitomizes the fall from grace is the biblical story of Eden. The story goes, God the Father took some clay from the ground and created Adam by breathing gently into the human form. God made a beautiful garden called Eden for him to live in. And then God the Father one night created a woman to keep Adam company. And her name was Lilith. This was the first wife of Adam. It's said that Lilith was banished by God after it became apparent that she was stronger and more intelligent than Adam, and she would not obey his commands. Then God took a rib from Adam's side and made a more compliant woman called Eve. God told this couple that the garden was for them to enjoy, but warned them never to touch the tree in the middle of the garden. This was the tree that gave knowledge of good and evil. And as we know, Eve was supposedly tempted by a serpent to eat the fruit. Eve took the apple, and both Eve and Adam took a bite. They were cast out. God cursed women to feel pain in childbirth from then on, and men were cursed to toil the earth to make a living. This story really epitomizes the fall from grace, after which much strife and hardship entered the world. Now, prior to all of this fall from grace, humanity had a very different collective consciousness. One where there was a direct experience of the divine flowing in nature, in the universe around, and also from within. The world and all of life was seen as sacred. There was the idea or concept that we existed in a great universal web of life, and that our words and actions could uplift or impede others. In 5D, there was never any need for faith or belief as it's understood within 3D societies. We do not need to believe in anything. Rather, we experience the divine directly. In 5D, there is no need for karma in the way it's experienced within 3D societies. In 3D, there is no unity consciousness, and motivation comes mainly from self-interest. As monotheistic cultures gained in ascendance, followers were not encouraged to see the world as sacred. Now the world was something to be used and abused, and as religions gained power, misogyny within patriarchy got stronger. This misogyny is typified by two stories, that of Medusa and the other of Medea. Both stories originate from ancient Greece. So starting with Medusa, Medusa was a fair-haired, beautiful woman who served as a priestess to the goddess Athena. She came to the attention of Poseidon, god of the sea, who raped her in Athena's temple. This angered the goddess, who punished Medusa for defiling her temple by transforming her beautiful hair to serpents and made her face so terrible that the mere sight of her would turn onlookers to stone. When the hero Perseus slew Medusa, she was then pregnant by Poseidon, and with her death's blood, the great winged horse Pegasus was born. This story really typifies the blaming of women for the consequences of unconscious male sexual energy, and this can still be witnessed very much in 3D cultures today. In the second story, Medea is married to the hero Jason, and she bore him 2 sons. But one day Jason decides to marry the daughter of the king of Corinth. The king banishes Medea, but before she leaves the city, Medea poisons and kills the daughter of the king, the intended bride of Jason. She then slays her children and rides off. Now, in this story, Medea is really portrayed as evil, unable to control her feelings. The princess who was killed by Medea is only mentioned a few times by name, and is seen as merely the property of her wealthy father. Jason comes off in the story rather blameless. He leaves his wife and children, but his reason for marrying the princess was to win wealth and power for himself and his sons. Something that patriarchal culture could really agree with. We can probably see the very dangerous effects of patriarchy in the world today. Both men and women have suffered greatly within this system. The planet and all kingdoms of nature have also suffered. Our world is polluted, there is injustice in terms of wealth distribution, there is war and division, there is gender inequality in many places across the planet. But in this time of ascension, all of it's changing. Goddess is returning. What does this mean? Firstly, this change is slow, it's not fast. Many souls on the planet have not yet finished evolving through 3D. They haven't finished with patriarchy, and they will leave this plane of existence when their time comes. More and more evolved souls are being born here. Within these evolved souls, who many call starseeds, the feminine aspect of the divine seeks to awaken. In many here already, the goddess has already awakened. For men, this does not mean they become more feminine. It means they have access to more internal resources than before. For women, there is a greater understanding of feminine power. The inner priestess seeks equal power with more masculine archetypes within the psyche. Women are currently embracing New Age ideas and techniques in far greater numbers than men, and in my experience it's something like 85% to 15. Women are stepping up along with men who have strong connections to their feminine side. This is definitely not a return to matriarchy, which is where women ruled in ancient times. The return of the goddess is about synergy and equality of power that's not really truly occurred across the planet in recorded history. Before this can happen, many really need to forgive 3D patriarchal representatives and systems for the harm they have caused. Forgiveness is absolutely necessary. It's not a condoning but a releasing of these souls to their own evolutionary journey, wherever that may be. The focus now is on creating the future, on creating a bright future for the planet. We have entered a new age of light, and to me the symbol that best represents the synergy of this age is the infinity sign, which looks like a number 8 on its side. One side representing the masculine and the other side the feminine. There is a steady flow of energy from one side to the other. No part is superior to the other or inferior to the other. This infinity sign could easily represent our logical and intuitive minds that seek to unify and support one another. It could represent the head and the heart. It could represent power and vulnerability. Essentially, this return of the goddess is something to be celebrated by both men and women. It's a return to wholeness, a return to love, a return to honoring the web of life, a return to empowerment where we individually and collectively once again understand and know and experience that we create our reality from the inside out. As we embrace the goddess energy, our world will transform.